Like every day, I always forget it. Okay. Okay. So what is a document transformation? So we have seen EIB where you can use XSLT to transform your data into an XM into a CSV file or a text file, right? So you have seen that. And but have you ever seen in an EIB there is no way we can generate an error? For example, in my EIB and okay, EIB. Uh, it's in Dell 77. Someone's EIB. That's fine. Oh, that's empty. Okay, so this is our EIB. We have used, in this case, custom report transformation, but we have also used XSLT in an EIB to transform a file into a CSV or a fixed or any other format file, right? So while doing so, when you run this integration, even though there are validations like, for example, in an XSLT, you can write a truncation, right? You can make sure that the field width is only 10 characters in length. It should not exceed 10 characters. If it is less than 10 characters, fill with the space, something like that, right? You do that in your XSLT itself, but it automatically manipulates the data, but it will not show anything for the user that it actually did so, right? It will not tell tell it to the user that okay, this field is exceeding 30 characters, so I have to truncate it to 20 characters before sending it downstream, right? So document transformation solves such issues. What it does is it will give you an option using its delivered functions. It will give you an option to let the user know that a particular item is exceeding, a particular field is exceeding 30 characters in length, or I have excluded a worker because he did not satisfy an eligibility rule. Uh, or you can also do fixed width, and you can also add separators within the document transformation itself. So how do we do it is Workday came up with something called XTT and ETB functions. Let's just open this. Yeah. So Workday actually came up with this XTT and ETB function. So ETB is for validation. You can validate any eligibility rules, for example, defining if an employee is eligible to be included in the output file. Let's say I only want to include all active employees, and within my XSLT, I want to make sure that only people that have SSN are included in the output. If a person does not have an SSN, I want it to be in the error. So the business user can actually look at that error and take action on that employee to get an SSN entered. So the next time the file is run, SSN is there. So validations can be done in your XSLT on missing fields, maximum character length, and things like that. And you have XTT, XML to text, provide a number of different ways to transform and validate your XSL, validate your input XML file, input XML document. Okay, so you have so many Workday also provides separate categories of attributes that enable you to do it. Some attributes are arithmetic calculations. Some are comma separated values, like format. You can format a file into a CSV file or a text file. You can do a date format. You can do validation rules. For example, you can say what is the severity of this validation? Is it an error or is it a warning? You can also do something like additions and subtractions, like arithmetic, like you said. You can also do the fixed format, like we did. We wrote a function in XSLT to do it, right? We wrote an XSL function to calculate a fixed width and then add spaces or remove characters, right? Similar way, we can do it here using XTT fixed length. Okay. And you can also do something XTT validations. So XML validated. XTD, ETB and XTD processing instructions require that the XML output by the XSL transformation is valid XML. So finally, so for this document transformation, your input is your XML, and the way you write your XSLT, you write it to generate an XML, and then the final output of your document transformation will be your CSV file or a fixed width file. But the way you write your XML is to make sure that the way that you write your XML is the way you write your XSLT is to bring up an output like an XML. I'll show you guys how to do it. Let's just see it. Let's see. Yeah. So for example, if you require a social security number element, you'll have your sample as your parent tag and your sample as your closing tag, and then your social security number. Element has an ETB validation rule saying it is required equal to true. So ETB required is set to true. That means if an XML is not, sorry, if a social security number is not there, it will basically omit it from the integration output, and it will error that record. It will show that record as an error in the output. Sorry, in the UI. Let's go into an example. Let's create something. Yeah, let me open my Oxygen. Let me share my entire screen. Desktop. I'm creating a new XSLT file. And before doing that, I need a report, right? I need a report output or a core connector output to do it. So let's get the report output. We have 9 fields in there, all around worker base. So let's get an Workday XML from here. My ID. And then my password. So this is my entire XML. I'm gonna copy it, put it in my Oxygen, Control N XML document. Remove this text from here. And then I also get my XSD. Yeah, save it. And I associate my XML schema, associate schema, and I get my XSD. XFY. Okay. There are certain namespaces that you need for your XCT and ETB. So that is nothing but your access, these two namespaces. So these are your static namespaces that you have to use if you want to use your ETB and XCT functions. So those basically refer to your workday and get those functions. And then you don't need this. You have your access key from your schema. You need to reference your XML's namespace within your XSLT in order for the XSLT to run. Okay. Okay. Once this is done, now I can start writing my XSLT. I can do template match backslash. Okay, and now I will do what? I'll do simply called. I'll create a worker ID tag, worker underscore ID, and then I'll close the tag. So in between, for this worker ID, right, I wanted to make sure that it is required. So what I'll do is I'll do an XT required. Required equal to true. So I'm making this required. And then what I'm also doing is I want to omit this record from your output if your worker ID is missing, right? Omit equal to true. And then you basically print your value here. So what will be my value? So before doing that, I might have to write the for each function. Sorry. Yeah. Write my for each. XSL for each WD colon report data. Now my value of select will be simply coming from my employee ID. Okay. So within this simple code, I'm saying is for each report data slash report entry, give me an employee ID, but only give that record where an employee ID equal to true, or if employee ID is available. If not, omit that record. Right? You can write this anywhere, right? And then let's go for a different record now. Let's see what else I have. The date. Have an SSN. Do I have an SSN? Yeah, I do have an SSN. Yeah, let's write for SSN. Let's make it required. SSN XDP required equal to true. XDP omit equal to true. And then I will also write the severity. Just making sure severity describes what is it an error or is it a warning, right? So based on the severity, it will decide STT severity equal to error. If I give a warning here, that means in the integration out error, in the integration event, this will display as a warning. If I give you an error here, it will display as error. And then let me write XSL value of select. XSL. Quickly run it through. Oxygen will not perform the DT functions, but we'll just run it through to make sure that this is at least well formatted. Just to maximal. The reference of entity T must be within an XM. We have an ampersand character. Let's see. Don't like ampersand. Okay. So now if you see we have an XML here, I'm gonna put it in a different page, XML document. I mean, this is the XML we created, but Workday is not looking at this required. Sorry, Oxygen is not looking at this required environment tag, so it's basically having some errors. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna push this through the tenant. We'll create a document transformation and we'll put it there and we'll see what happens. Give me 1 second. I might need my parent. This is better. Let's go to the tenant. So now we're going to create what we called an core document transformation. Let's do create integration system. We use the same task like we created for core connectors. New using template. And then you can use buy this template and you can go to integrations and then you'll find the document transformation. Or you can search for document transformation, that's easy. Okay. Give it a name. INT 402 document transformation. And typically it has some errors and it has some warnings. One error is the integration system uses a document attachment service, which is not fully configured. By initiating this event, you'll need to configure the document attachment service using the related actions menu. So let's go to the related actions menu, actions, integration system, configure integration attachment service. So what we're doing is we are attaching our XSLT that we have created into this document transformation. I'm going to do create integration service attachment. You can create it here within the DT, or you can use the same task called create integration service attachment outside of DT, and then you can create it there as well. So let me select. Okay. And then now we have to give this document an input, right? So we haven't given this document transformation an input. So what can be an input for this document transformation? You can do a report as an input, or you can do a core connector worker or any core connector as an input. So if you're doing a core connector as an input, yesterday we have seen in a core connector, when we are creating a business process for a core connector, you have an option to assign an integration, right? So how you do is you create your core connector, and then you edit your business process to attach this integration. Let's actually do it quickly. Let me just guys 400 CCW outbound, and then if I scroll down, I see business process definition, edit definition. Okay, and then here I can add a step CA, which should run after C, and then integration here on the left, so on the right, type is integration, and then I click OK. Now I have an option to configure the integration service system. So what integration system I'll pick? I'll pick the DT. So this way, what we're saying is, after your core connector is run, kick off my DT. So my DT's input is my core connector worker output. So I can link both core connector worker and DT together in this way. So my core connector worker's output flows through my DT and finally comes out as a text file or something. Because we have only seen CSV and XML before, right? But using this, you can do both manipulations and you can give a better output. Similar to core connector worker, you can also give an input to DT using a custom report. How do you do it is you do a actions business process, you create a business process because this document transformation is new, and then no objects, nothing, none of the above. Okay. Then you add a step B, and you mark this integration as step C. So my first step A is always initiation. Step B, what I'm adding is a service, which is document retrieval, because I want to retrieve a document from a custom report. Okay. And then my step C is fire this integration, which will run this DT. Okay. Now in this document retrieval, I'm configuring my document retrieval. So retention policy is 30 days. So I have an option to retrieve the files from an external location. File name pattern, I don't have a file name pattern because I'm not retrieving it from anything. What I'm doing is in the transport type, there is FTP, REST SFTP, but I'm picking custom report. And then I'm doing the advanced first. Okay. And see, our report parameter has an employee ID prompt, so it's automatically giving us the prompt a value. If you want an alternate output format, if you write your XSLT based upon simple XML, you can give it here. And then you can restrict it to environments. And then run this report as a user. Always, I think this is the required field. Select a single file and define only one when you use custom report. Output.xml. And this document tag is marked as retrieved. And I'm going to run this report as a Logan. Okay. Done. So I've configured my business process to pick up a report data source. And then it is my input to my DT now. INT 400. And now I have to make sure that this DT is actually getting that report from this integration attributes. I have an option called input document tags. Tags used to retrieve the input document from the integration event. So whenever the integration runs, the first step runs is the document retrieval, right? And within this document retrieval, you get your report output. So you indicate that tag here. So you add, and what's the tag? It's retrieved. Mm, see, my tag should appear here. Create a tag. Yeah, let's create a document tag for this. I'll create INT 402 report tag, and then I put the tag in this customer report. Sorry, document retrieval. Click OK, and this tag now should appear to me as an attribute. Okay, here you go. INT report tag. So by linking these two, my report output is linked to my document transformation. If you want any output document tags, so these tags are used for delivery services, right? So why do you want an output document tag? Because you want to deliver this file to an external location, and you want a specific output document tag to be mentioned, so you can reference that output document tag in your document delivery, like you did in document retrieval. You can do the same thing in document delivery. But for now, I'm not delivering it anywhere, so I'm doing it here. So you can audit your validation messages. Let's do it. Document retention policy is set to 30. Good. Something is error. Oh, you definitely need. Okay. Okay. What's the warning? Sequence generator. I'm fine with sequence generator for now. Let's quickly run this. Let's see what the output is. I'm not sure if my code is 100% correct, so no guarantees there. We missed the. Definitely missed this. Access. Yeah, definitely with error out. Yeah. Yeah, because I actually missed my output method XML, so it'll definitely error out. So let's re-upload the document. What we'll do is edit document, integration attachment, edit integration service attachment. This should have our integration service attachment. Simple dk.xml. And then what I do is I'll do this. Of course. This is the valid access XML. That looks okay to me. See. Let's create a parent tag here. File. Okay, in that way, the file has your namespaces and your record is looking good. So let's try this one. Okay, now it's completed successfully. And then let's see if I have the output here. Okay, now my report output is looking good, but somehow my data is okay. Somehow my report is not generating any data message audits. Transform document.xml, validation messages. See the parent event to see if report generated any output. Output.xml is my report. This one has data. What's missing? Report data slash report entry, WD employee ID, debug. Simple copy, transform a document. Okay, it did transform successfully, so I have my transform document. With ATB also it did transform. And then I have 0 validation messages. What's wrong? Hmm. Okay, did transform. Okay, we'll do one thing. For the sake of it, let me just remove this XDT functions and let's see. Okay, I'm getting my output, but when I do my ATV and XDT, something's missing. So what's wrong with my ATV? Let me add a separator first. Let me add a separator for record. Well, let's separate each record by using a function called separator. So we have XDT. XDT separator equal to pipe. And then we'll do XDT align equal to left. Okay, let's just do this both. guy separator. Okay. So this is separating each record by that. Okay. Okay. Now I have separated my each record with a pipe. So that's how you do your separators. So you can add a comma between each row or each employee ID is separated. So I can add something like let's separate my employee ID with an SSN here. So I do XTT separator and then equal to, let's do pipe here, and let's separate each record by a line feed. Okay, I'll do XTT. Separator equal to pipe and XTT line equal to. And then over here, what I'll do is I'll get a line feed or a carriage return instead of the separator. So I'll create a variable on top of everything, XSL variable. Name is line feed, and then this value will be, let me get the line feed. This way. Let's do it this way. Simple. They have this line feed as variable now. So let me put this line feed in here. I have to see how to put a variable within this, but let's see. Okay, let's try to upload this. Integrated service attachment, edit. Well, while it's taking some time, I want to change that report. I don't want that SSNs to be dot dot star star. I want the SSNs to be looking good. Let me edit this report. Get this SSN and replace it with social security number. This social security number. Edit social security. Cool. Why are you adding that? The field web service API version is required and must have a value. Wow. Right. And I'm going to remove this prompt as well. I don't really need it. Hmm. What happened in 92? Mean the restrictions defined by the field. Oh, okay. I need more security. Social security number. I'm going to add. I'm going to remove this employee ID filter. Also, I'm going to remove the prompts. Then in this advanced, what caused it to go blank. What's happening? Why? Why? Very interesting. Wow. This never happened before. I mean, I should have access to change it. Somehow this is erroring out. Why is this set to blank? Anyways, let's see it later. We have our output, and now it is separated by a line feed. And then you have your okay. You have it separated by a line feed now, so you got it until there. Then your worker ID. Let's try to add the validation rules. It's ETV. Back to community. Let's see. What are validation rules? ETV truncate equal to 2, max length equal to 30. Let's get this one. What I'll try to do is what this function basically does is it will do the truncation and it goes for the maximum length of 30. And then if you add more validations like error or warning here, it will also show you error or warning in your UI. And this example provides something like this. It's a 30 character length. Worker truncates the value to 30 characters and removes the ETV attributes. This is not happening for us. Why? Okay, let's do this XML service. And then I can add ETV truncate here to, and I set the maximum length to, let's do something like 3. That way we can see if something changed. And I'm going back to my edit integration attachment service. All. Okay, let's rerun it for one last time. And then what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to write some functions, and I'll actually share with you guys, and we'll also discuss this on Saturday. I don't want to go back and forth with this because I don't know why some functions are not working as it. Say the truncation happened and your maximum length for your SSL is set to 3. So there are other functions as well that you can use. I'll pull up everything and I'll probably create a sample XML for you guys to actually look at that, and we can try it out again on Saturday as well. Any general questions so far on this, like why we are doing it, kind of a questions? Technical, we can talk about them on Saturday as well. Okay. So overall, today we have seen document transformation, basics of document transformation. We have seen how to write an ETB and XTB functions. We've seen only a couple of functions. We're going to see more on Saturday as well. Today, I'm going to go into other topics. There are like small topics that we need to cover, like security, ISSGs and ISUs, integration system users. I'll also walk through some of the tenant setups that you might have missed. So yeah, we'll go through them. But we have created all these integrations until so far, but you might have got a question, right? What security groups that these integrations are using to get data, or what security user is running these integrations? You might think that it is a user or a customer, like a HR administrator. For example, if I'm running this report, it's run as myself, my user ID. So whatever security my user ID has, the report takes that security and only returns only those values. Right? We have discussed if a user is running and he does not have access to look at a social security number will appear as blank. Similar in case of integrations as well. So in integrations, they have to have access to get data or put data, right? That's the only two functions we do in an integration. We get data out of Workday or we put data back into Workday, right? So if a user that's running this integration does not have access to get data, that field will appear blank in his output. So if the user does not have access to get an SSN, it will automatically come out as blank. Okay. And once you create an integration, if you are running it as yourselves and you schedule the integration to run it, take your security and run as yourself. And once the user leaves the company, terminated, that schedule will go as because the user does not have any security now, even to run that integration. So the schedule will basically error out. So in order to reduce such errors and remove user dependency on integrations, Workday came up with something called integration system users. So we call them ISU, integration system user. So how do we create a system user? It's create integration system user. So this is the only system user in the entire tenant. You don't have a different system user at all. So if anyone is talking about a system user, not a regular person user, it is about integrated system user. So you give it a name, int for to ISU, and then you assign a password, something. Quality 1 Okay. And then required password is next sign in. ISU is not going to sign in. So this ISU is only to run an integration. You should not sign in like a regular user, right? But you can also sign in with this ISU. Typically, those are not used to sign-ins. Those are only used for running integration, right? And then I click on. Okay. password root at the
Is this the one where you do run as when you are creating the integration?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm gonna attach this ISU that we have created to an integration that we have created. For example, let's go to our core connector worker that has better fields. How do I do it? I go to actions, workday account, edit, and then I attach my ISU, 402 ISU. Okay? And then it will ask what time zone, what preferences it has, but ISUs does not have anything like that, so you just don't worry. And then you see your workday account is set to this ISU. So when I launch this integration, I'll give a user, let's get Logan's data, and then let's get a full file. If you observe, it is initiated by me. I'm initiating it, and it is run as ISU. Previously, if you did not associate an ISU, it will be run as yourself, right? So now you assign an ISU, it is running as this ISU. Whatever security this ISU has, it will only return those fields, typically, right? In this case, we did not assign any security for this ISU. This is a blank ISU with nothing assigned. So it should error out, typically, yeah, failed. And the error is saying this is related to insufficient privileges helps an account configured for this integration. Yes, that is true. The task submitted is not authorized. Okay. So how do you assign security to this ISU now? Okay. So there is a security group, type security group called create security group. And then we have two types of securities for integrations. One is called integration system security group constrained, and the other one is unconstrained. So we call them ISSG. Okay, ISSG. So you know what a constraint is, you know what an unconstrained is. Constrained is constrained by a certain organization, which can be a pay group, which can be a company, which can be an cost center, which can be department, anything. You can constrain a security group based upon an organization, right? Unconstrained, it has no boundaries. So it will basically look for any organization, anyone. It's not constrained by any organizations or any certain restrictions, right? So for all ISSGs, typically we go for unconstrained. If you have a special requirement to create a constrained security group that the integration should only look or get data for this organization only, then you'll go for constraint. Typically, always 95% of time you'll go for unconstrained. And then you give it a name, INT402 ISSG. Okay. Now you assign your user in here in this integration system security groups. So you have your ISSG, you have your ISU assigned. Click OK. Now your security group is linked to your ISU. Now your next step is giving access to your security group, like you did for role-based security. I think you have created the user-based and role-based security groups before, right? So similar ways we give access to this security group. But this time we'll mostly focus on integrated security groups, security domains. Those will be get and put instead of view and modify. Go to actions, security group, maintain security permissions, and I give get and put access. So if you give a put access, that means automatically that user has get as well. So we're getting so many data elements in here. So I'm gonna give all worker data. I'll just give maximum security for this integration to run. So I'm gonna select everything. So 163 domains. Do we also have compensation data in here? I don't know what the other data elements we have. Let's see what functions we have. Uh, I mean, typically you don't need all these groups. All you need is what fields are you getting and only those security groups or only those security domains. But I'm lazy and we don't have time, so I'm just giving everything I know. Position, compensation, status, transaction log. I don't think there is a domain called transaction log, so we should be fine. I will get worker history. You already got worker history. They should do. So you have around 300 domains that you have assigned to this ISSG now. The next step is activating those domains. Activate pending security policy changes. So this is like your typical security that you always do. The only thing is this is only for integration specific. Then now, if I'm right, this user should have security to run this integration. Fingers crossed. Come on. Okay. So now the integration is run successfully because it was run as ISU like before, but now the ISU has access to all the data domains that it requires in this connector worker especially. And then it gave us the output file, and we should see all data here. Okay. As you can see, okay, there is data. So we're good. Similar way, we can create a constraint security group, which is also same thing. I'm not going to create it, but I'll just show you guys. Create security group, integration security, system security group constraint, and then here you can still assign our ISU because an ISU can go into multiple ISSUs. But an integration can only have one ISU. So integration to ISU, it's just one-to-one mapping. An ISU to an ISSC, it can be one-to-many or many-to-one. Okay, you can specify an organization, any company, GMS. Something current organization and all subordinates. So this ISSG, even though when we assign this ISSG, if we run this integration only for the specific security domains, you only get data for the members that are part of this organization only, not everyone. Okay. Questions on the security? Any other security related questions? Okay. Let's do scheduling. So we have almost run this integration always, right, manually. How do we schedule it? Similar way, launch our schedule, and then before clicking OK, in this run frequency, you can select a schedule saying run once in future, minute recurrence, hourly recurrence, daily recurrence, weekly recurrence. So let's select something like daily recurrence. And then in your integration criteria, it's again normal. You have your login. And then you have your full file. And Krishna, you have a second. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Once you're done, then I'll talk to you about security questions.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a second tab called Set Schedule here. So in this tab, you can actually create your schedule. So it recurs every weekday, or you can say recur every X days, and you can give one. So in that case, it will run Saturday, Sunday as well. If you do recur every weekday, it will only run Monday to Friday, and then you give it a time, 1:45 a.m. or something, and then you say start date as of today. Yeah, in this case, the start date must be, so I'm gonna give it PM. Let's do a 7 7 p.m. Let's do 6:45. Let's do 6:45. Yeah, 6:45. And then today, and then let's end the schedule on Monday. So I created a schedule and asked it to run every day at 6:45, and I have a start date and end date like this. You cannot give an end date that is greater than 1 year, or so you can give an end date 1 year from today. So the maximum end date you can give is 2019, 12/31, 2019, I believe. Let's try 12/31, 2019. I can give that, but you can't go beyond that. You can't go maybe 1/5, 2020. Yeah, you can go. You cannot schedule a process that will run more than 5 times after the end date of the next calendar year. So you can only schedule maximum 5 times after the end date of the next calendar year. So if you want it, sorry, right? Hello. Okay. So that's a limitation. You can, so once your schedules expire, the next calendar year, you may have to revisit your schedules and just move that end date to the later calendar year, right? And then I do okay. You can also give a name for the schedule. You can change it. I do okay. And one important thing to remember is once you create your schedule, you want to make your ISU the owner of it, right? Because in that case, your schedule is independent of your regular user. Your schedule is independent of Logan McNeil. Even though Logan McNeil leaves the company, your integration runs because it is scheduled. The schedule is owned by the ISU. You don't want integration schedules or ownerships left on a regular user. So how do you do it? Is you go to actions. So currently it is owned by it is owned by myself. So if I was terminated from the company, the schedule will fail because there is no owner for the schedule. So what I'll do is I'll go to actions, schedule future processes. I can do transfer ownership, and then I can assign ISU, of course. Yeah, of course, this ISU is not here because it does not have security to own a schedule yet. Let's give it. Let's quickly give it a more schedule. Indeed, 402, right? Yeah. And then I have this ISU. Oh no, not this. This ISU security, view security groups. I have this unconstrained security group, maintain security permissions. How do I assign? Integration will configure event. There will be something called a run. I think this should take care of it. Or let's do it by fine. Schedule. Schedule reports. Yeah, then this should. And then, oh, come on. I also want to give modify access. In that case, the schedule ownership can be taken up by this guy. Modify integrations. Okay. Now, okay. Within here, I can, let's see. Come on. Right, it is still missing some domains. So how do I look for the domain is? View security for securable item. I don't know if you have discussed this task. This is a very useful task in Workday. You can view security for any item using this task. So, for example, if you're doubting what security does a field has, I mean, does this field is secured by, right? For example, my social security number. So I can search for my social security number here, and then I have a field. So you might be looking for a report field, right? You select the report field here, for example, this report field, and then click OK. And it is secured by 4 domain policies. So as long as you have access to any of these domains, you'll be able to see an SSN, get an SSN, or update an SSN, or modify an SSN. Okay, you should have its respective security. So this is a view security for securable item. It's a very useful task. Now I'm looking for a scheduled future processes. View scheduled future. Not view. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, you can transfer an ISU. You have to transfer your schedule also to an ISU. It's not coming to my mind what the domain is, but I'll look at it and I'll let you guys know. That's where you can assign it. And then once you assign this ISU, so once you have this schedule up and running, you can look at your schedules, current schedules, using a task called future scheduled processes by date, or scheduled future processes by date. Or you don't need by also scheduled future processes also gives you the same report. Mass extend. Oh, okay. I haven't never seen this task. Let's see. Process type, integration, process status, active, run frequency, daily. I don't worry about. Oh, Workday came up with something like mass extend your schedule future processes. This might be Workday 13 new, or this might be Workday 31 future. But currently we don't have this task at all, mass extend schedule future processes. That's good to have. But typically you look at your schedules, schedule future process by date, and here is your schedule. Next scheduled runtime is today at 2:22, 6:45 p.m. And then this is your request, daily recurrence. It's currently owned by this guy, and it is running in implementation. Status is active. You can suspend the schedule. All you have to do is go to the request, actions, schedule future process. You can delete the schedule, suspend the schedule, or you can just run it now, so it will just run now. So that's how you do your scheduling in Workday. Okay. Questions? Jay, you were asking something on security.
This is on the user creation side. Is there a way to mass create the users or automatic create the users from the Active Directory?
Users in a sense. So Active Directory will probably get an email, or you mean like service accounts?
No, I'm talking the regular users, because the users need. needs to be in Workday system too, right? So they need to be in the Active
I mean,
Directory.
so users in the sense, source will be Workday, right? Employees, the source is always Workday. Active Directory gets users from Workday, and Active Directory in return will get us an email or a phone number back, work email or a phone number back to Workday, right?
Agreed.
I mean, that's the cycle.
So the employee will get hired because the way the Workday process is that the employee will get hired and it will create the user ID directly right during that process, right? But then you have to go,
Workday user ID.
right? Workday user ID,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, Workday user ID. Yeah.
So in some companies, they may have a total different naming convention of a user ID, which is being generated in the identity access management system. So,
Yes.
so how are you going to tie identity access management user IDs to Workday user IDs, Workday accounts?
Okay. Yeah. So here are some examples I've seen. Every client does it differently, but some I have seen a couple of cases. So one, you hire an employee, you get your employee ID in Workday. So that is all Workday's source for that, right? And then you have your bulk extract. So you basically send all your new hires to Active Directory, and then Active Directory creates their uh, network ID or something like that for your company, right? And then once Active Directory creates this, Active Directory feeds them back to Workday. I have seen a customer that have used the custom objects to load that and feed it and store it in custom objects. I've seen some people use IDs. So I've seen where Logan, let's see. So I've seen clients using this section, ID section. They'll add an other ID, like here, other ID, like a badge ID, something, and they'll basically add that ID here. So there is a web service to update other IDs, and there is a web service to update custom objects as well. So Workday did not deliver any placeholder for your company's network IDs or your unique IDs that you follow in your client's place. Uh, so for Workday, unique ID is always employee ID. If we have something that we need to store back in Workday so we can send it downstream systems from Workday, we might have to come up with something like, okay, how do I do it? Can I use a custom object? Yes, you can. And what's the limitations of that? But can I use an other ID field, like this field? It has its own limitations. So you have to think through it and say what's best to do with line. And I mean, both has its pros and cons. Custom object, if you use, custom objects are limited, and it's very hard to edit custom objects and things like that. And the people will be custom objects also have APIs. I like custom objects, but they're limited. You don't have more than 50 or 100 custom objects now. But other IDs, in the other sense, you can also use this section, other ID section, to load your company's network ID or something. So by doing so, what you do is you'll create a transaction on your worker history, because other IDs is a business process. So you create a transaction on your worker history, which is again another transaction creation. And if any process is waiting, like for example, if an ID generates, or for example, a worker is trying to edit an SSN, his ID is in progress, the business process is in progress, your web service call will fail because it has another in progress transaction that is already happening on the worker, and it will not initiate another transaction until that process is complete. So in both cases, it has pros and cons. Those are two scenarios that I have seen. And I've seen people using other places as well, like on the worker object, mostly they'll come up with custom fields and different places. But as of Workday, they did not deliver any field for the network ID that comes from Active Directory.
Okay, so the ID which gets created, which is the network ID, normally the network ID and the Workday ID, let's say it is the same ID I want to use. So users don't have to remember two different IDs and two different passwords. So in order to do that, obviously, like you said, the Active Directory will create the account, and that account needs to go to the Workday, get associated with that employee ID of that Logan McNeil, right? When that Logan McNeil gets hired. And you're saying I have two options to use either other IDs or to use a business object, the custom.
There is a third option as well. I mean, when you set the scenario, right, you say my employee ID should be equal to my network ID, right? In that case, the network ID is generated by Active Directory. So my source of the data is coming from Active Directory, not Workday generated ID. So Workday should not generate an ID. Active Directory should generate an ID and push it to Workday during the hide stage, so that employee get associated with an employee ID.
Okay. So that's the third option.
That's the third option.
Right. And that's what I've kind of seen in other ERP applications also, or other applications where, because InfoSec wants to make sure that they're the one who are creating the network IDs and not generated by an application.
So yeah, I mean the third option has its pros and cons always, right? Because you you have to be in perfect timing also. Because when an employee is getting hired in Workday, typically I have seen a client did it this way. So they have a Salesforce system generating their employee IDs or their network IDs. So they have their unique Salesforce system that generates the ID. So what we did is, in that hire employee business process, once the hire employee is initiated, we have a step within the business process that runs an integration. So similar way, we added an integration for an integration business process, right? Similarly, in the hire business process also, you can add an integration. So we added an integration there, and we did an API call to Salesforce to get an ID, the next available ID, and attach it to the hire event, so that this employee that is getting hired in that hire event will get that new ID generated by Salesforce.
Okay, and when you said ID, that's the user ID, right?
Yeah, that's the user ID, that's the employee ID.
So you're fetching it from Salesforce.
Yeah, in that case, we are fetching it from Salesforce.
Okay.
And you guys, you observe my user ID. I mean, user name in Workday is different. My security profile. Come on. Yeah, my security profile, my username is different from my employee ID. Right. People will make them unique sometimes, but most of the cases I have a different username. This is only used to log into Workday. And typically when we use an SSO, single sign-on, you will never use this username at all, because this is only used for login credentials, but your single sign-on is associated with your network ID or your employee ID. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Like this is your user ID, right? KCGUTTA, Gutta. Oh, that's the username.
Yeah, that's the username. KC Gutta is my username that I used to log into Workday, but my employee ID is
right. Well, that's going to be different, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be different. Right. It's 21465.
Right. And in some companies I've seen, they use an email address to log on instead of using a username, user ID, or a employee ID.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's just how you set up your single sign-on, most probably.
Right.
Okay. And what else? We have some time to spare. So, any other questions you guys have? I mean, I don't want to start tenant setup today. It will take at least a couple of minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So any other questions you guys have? Otherwise, we'll wrap up and we'll do Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12.
Okay.
EST. Just the time.
You will send.
I see you created a password for ISU.
Yeah.
Where do you use that?
Nice. So for an ISU, you typically do not use a password ever, but Workday requires you to create a password. In some cases, right? For example, if you are exposing a RAS, if you are exposing a report as a service to an external vendor and they want to call your report and get data without any integration or anything in between, right? We have seen report as a service, right? When you click a URL, it basically takes you to a username and password, and then you enter your username and password. Similarly, an external vendor can call a report from Workday and get data from a report using a username and a password or basic authentication. So for doing that, you might want to give a ISU username and password instead of your personal username and password, right? So that's where you create an ISU and you use that password to further to give it to that vendor so they can call and access Workday. And you give them only security that they need to see those fields. And you'll also restrict them to logging in via UI. So they don't log in via UI. All they can do is call an API. And you can also set passwords to do not expire. So their username and password for that security integration system user never expires.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And yeah, let me think about one more thing. Yeah. Yeah, otherwise we never use username and password. And that's it. So Saturday I'm gonna create a document transformation, a working document transformation, so we don't spend more time in our session. And we're gonna go through it, make some changes, and see what functions does what. And then I'm gonna go through the tenant setup. I'm going to show you the IP restrictions that you can apply on the tenant, the security level. So you can restrict people from logging in only from specified IP addresses. We'll see that. We'll see tenant setup notifications and all some basic stuff, which will be like 10 minutes each. And have you guys installed Studio? We'll be in Studio maybe on Saturday or early next week, Monday. So if you have any questions from Studio, you can stay back. I can watch your screen and you can install it. If you're facing any errors, otherwise, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll stay. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Krishna, can I take 2 minutes of your time? You have
Yeah,
done?
sure. Yeah, I'm done.
I wanted the topics, Krishna, so that I can create the questionnaire.
You wanna take now?
No, you can message me. No issues.
Yeah, I'll message right now. Yeah,
No
I'll
problem.
message right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Everybody's staying, but no one's asking me questions. So stop the recording first.